Set Apart Homestead. This is Travis here at the Prepared Homestead, trying to get caught up on a project that should have been done quite a while ago, putting this fence up in this pasture. I've had other things that's other projects that's come up that's been more important, so this one's been put on the back burner, but finally getting it done. And as most of you know, there's not much more enjoyable job on the homestead as running fence. Thankfully though, the ground here is amazing for the Ozarks. For those of you listeners that live in the Ozarks, you know that it's usually about like digging through concrete to dig a hole around here. But down here, for whatever reason, this land, it's amazing when it comes to dirt. So it's not that hard, but I'm just about to wrap it up. I got the rest to do on this corner, and then I got a corner down there that I've got the holes dug, but I haven't got the posts set. And then once that's done, it's running T-posts and then putting the fence up. Then we can finally get the sheep. That's the whole point of getting this pasture fenced in, is getting sheep. And we feel really blessed that we're able to get the ones that we're getting, because we kind of made a list of animals that we were interested in raising. You know, they needed to be hardy, they needed to you know, have multi-purposes, you know, not just one, and you know, just kind of fit our land. And I think that these are definitely fall within that category. It just so happens that we met some people not too far away that raised them, and so we're getting a small herd from them. So we're very fortunate for that. I'm just kind of finishing it up so that we can put some sheep out here in this field, and then we'll have meat source. And some of these sheep have been milked, so there's a milk source if we choose to go that route also. And then they make a really fine wool, the sheep that we're getting. They're Shetland sheep. For those of you that are curious, they're actually the smallest breed of sheep that are like native to this area, or native to Missouri, not Missouri, to the United States, I believe, is what I understand. I could be wrong, so if I am, let me know. But they're very small, hardy breed of sheep. And we're gonna give it a shot. I've raised sheep before, but interested in these little guys. All right. If you don't mind, go ahead and click the like and subscribe button. Share it if you want, because that's the best way to get the word out on this channel. Because as you all know, YouTube, Facebook, all that kind of stuff, they don't like this kind of content anymore. I mean, goodness, they're deleting, you know, accounts that are from the president and other officials and stuff, just because they don't like the content. So you can guarantee they don't like mine. You know, one of the reasons, big reason why we're doing the sheep is the same reason why we do chickens and, you know, other things, gardening stuff. It's to create some sustainability. And I know that sheep, for a lot of you that's never raised them, that may not be the first animal that you think of, because we live in such a beef-heavy culture. But sheep make a really good meat source. They produce well. They're easy to handle. These are a smaller breed, and you know, I wanted to raise something that was truly sustainable. That if everything just came crashing down, would they be something that we could handle from start to finish on our own? And with cows, and I don't mind raising them, and we may eventually get a dairy, you know, like a little Jersey or something, or a little milking Dexter. The problem is with when you go to butcher their offspring, it takes a lot more work. Sure, you get a lot of meat out of it, but you know, it's a pretty big animal. You know, if you butcher an 18-month-old steer, you're talking a very large animal to handle by yourself. Most people send it off to a processor, some local butcher. And what happens if, you know, they're not available. Whereas with sheep, especially this breed, because they're smaller, it's something that I can handle on my own and process it quite easily for us. And we'll have enough that we'll be able to butcher, probably 4 or 5, maybe 6 a year of the offspring once they get going. So anyway, that's why we're doing it, because we're not out here just because we like being away from people. And trust me, with all the stuff that's going on nowadays, between the virus and the insurgency of these domestic terrorists, living out away from people is quite a wonderful thing. But that's not the only reason. We live out here because we want to be sustainable, because we know that there's a possibility that there may come a day where living like this is really about the only way to truly survive, unless you go and become lick the boots of those in power and take whatever they give you, which usually isn't much at that point. I'm getting off subject, but that's the whole point of this, and that's why most of us homesteaders do this. The average homesteader, like how we live, where you live out and you really try to do things as much on your own. It's kind of interesting. We're just preppers by nature, and a lot of them don't even consider themselves preppers. They don't even think of it that way. That's just how they live. We stock up. We know that there may be times where it's difficult to get out. For instance, here, if we have good heavy rains, good rainy season, the creek for the road leading out to the main road, it could rise and we may have a hard time getting out. Or winter comes and we get a good snowstorm or an ice storm, we may not get out for days or even weeks. Power may go out. And so we learn to be prepared. And that's just on a normal day. Now we're dealing with something different. We're dealing with what seems like the world ending every other day. And that's why you also need to be stocking up. Something I've been wanting to mention, I was trying to figure out if I wanted to do a whole show around it or if I just wanted to mention it. I think I'm just going to say it. It's not a big deal. It's just some information that came along my way through a friend that works for a company that's a contractor for a company that is a DoD contractor, Department of Defense. And this company is an ammunition manufacturer, one of the big ones. And they were doing some work for them, and they were talking to one of the managers about this ammunition shortage. And most of you gun owners, you are aware that right now it's very difficult to get certain types of ammunition. And the guy said, well, obviously everyone's been buying it up because of the pandemic and everything. He said, so it's caused us to be short and struggle to keep up. He said, but really that's not the reason why we've not been able to keep up, why there's such a major back order. He says it's our government contracts. He says we have gotten new orders from the government, much larger orders than we have in the past. And he said right now, and he didn't say that this was the order, he just said right now we're over 200 million units of ammunition behind on trying to fill the order for the DoD. And that's just one ammunition manufacturer. Several of them have contracts, the big ones have contracts with the U.S. government. And so, that's one reason, he said in his words, that was the big reason why there is a shortage right now of ammunition and why the companies can't keep up, because of the amount of ammunition that the government is purchasing for them. So I just wanted to pass that along. I'm not trying to start some conspiracy here, but common sense tells me that if all of a sudden the government is buying up large amounts of ammunition, then maybe they're preparing for something. And I know over the past several months there's been many reports of the government buying up, stocking up on food, a lot more food than they normally have. The Army, the Department of Homeland Security, different agencies have been kind of going through a hoarding spree. So maybe they know something we don't, and that's probably another good reason why you should be stocking up even more. Make it a very high priority. Many of you put aside a little bit each month to stock up, to a little bit of money to stock up on. maybe it should be a lot more. And if you have to push yourself and maybe even make things a little tight right now to stock up on as much as you can, because things are getting crazy. I want to mention a couple of things that's been in the news lately. Today's just kind of a scatterbrained this video, I think. But there's a couple of things that's been in the news that I really wanted to talk about. And one has been on nationwide news, and I'm sure you've all seen it, and it's the couple in St. Louis that have the big, humongous mansion. I mean, did you see the size of that house? It was crazy. It was beautiful. But the point is that they defended their home with firearms from criminals. Okay? That's exactly what they were. Virtually every report I have seen from any news agency has reported it as these extremist homeowners blazing guns or pointing, violently pointing their weapon at peaceful protesters. So here's the deal. Those people entered private property. In fact, since then, the one that was kind of leading it admitted that, yes, they knew that was private property. They knew that they were trespassing, okay? And that was part of their protest, was to trespass. To just let you know, in the state of Missouri, you have different levels of trespassing. And what they were doing is called criminal trespass, meaning that the land was posted. The property was marked saying that this was private property. It was gated, so it had a perimeter, a boundary that prevented you. So you entered the property illegally. You didn't just accidentally step on someone's yard. You broke through the gate. There's video or pictures of the gate that it was destroyed. You came through the property while someone was yelling at you that it was private property, to get out of here, you're on my property, leave, on and on. So what they did was criminal trespass. At the very least, there appears to be that they also made some threats against these people. And apparently these people, it sounds like that they were not the typical, they're not really the gun-loving conservative type. I guess they're registered Democrats, and apparently have even donated money to Black Lives Matter. But the point is that they realized a threat, and they did the right thing, and they protected themselves. And everyone's like, oh, but the people were peaceful, they didn't do anything. Yeah, they didn't do anything because these guys had the husband and wife had firearms pointed at them. Of course they didn't do anything. What would they have done if the homeowners did not defend their home with firearms? Would they have caused some kind of vandalism? Would they have done some kind of destructive act against these people's property? Who knows? The point is the firearms worked. The sad part of the story is that these people had contacted the local police department in St. Louis, whatever agency protects, covers their area, and they also contacted the security company that is supposed to protect this area, this private neighborhood that they lived in. Neither one of them did anything. The police, like many times in all of this crazy protesting, the rioting that's going on, the police have stood down. And it's kind of hard for me to really beat up on the cops, because everyone else has already beat up on them. That's why they're doing it. A lot of times they're standing down because they're ordered to, and other times they're doing it because, everyone hates them right now. I mean, it'd be really hard to follow through, even though, they've taken an oath. I know what that oath is. I've taken it myself. But I can understand. They're just human. The point is that no one came to these people's aid. And it wasn't just one or two people that came onto their property. It was well over 100 people, maybe 200. The numbers I've seen are anywhere between 100 and 200 people came through there. They had no one else. They were on their own. And thankfully, nothing else happened. Just brandishing the weapon was enough. Another story that's similar, and you might have heard about it, it's not getting as much news coverage, but I want to clarify some some information that's been put out by the news media that's not correct. The next county over from me here in Missouri, Shannon County, there's a little town called Eminence. The sheriff's department received some threats from Antifa and Black Lives Matter. They were a group of these terrorists were headed to Branson, Missouri, and you've probably seen that one in the news too, and they were going to protest there. And their plan was on the way to Branson, they were going to make a detour and come through this little dinky town of Eminence, Missouri, which isn't that far from here. And apparently a police officer, sheriff's deputy, shot and killed someone a couple of years ago, and it was, you know, possibly a little sketchy. And because of that, they had made threats to, you know, burn the building, burn the town down. They were going to come through and destroy the courthouse, the jail, the sheriff's department, police cars, all this kind of stuff. In that county, the sheriff only has 3 deputies, and he put a call out. Now, the news media paints the story that these radical right-wing militias just poured into the city, making it a very touchy situation for the law enforcement. The truth is the sheriff invited them. It wasn't any one militia. The sheriff just put a call out for any able-bodied male or female in the county to come and defend the county. And nearly the entire county showed up. The news also says that Antifa didn't show up, and that's not actually true. 2 busloads of them were stopped at the county line, where they did find drugs on some of them, and several of them were arrested. But they never made it into town, other than maybe a few scouts that people saw. So, I'm saying all this to let you know that this violence that you're seeing right now, that you've been seeing for the last month or so in these big cities and the downtown areas and stuff, it is slowly making its way to you. It's coming to the suburbs. It's already been in the suburbs in several towns. And even out here, where I live in the Ozarks, where, you know, your neighbors can be well over a mile away, and everyone's just good country people, they showed up at one of the towns out here. So don't think that it's not going to happen again. These people are hell-bent on destroying everything this nation stands for. So folks, you've got to start getting ready. One of the things that I'm going to talk about probably in the next video is about MAGs, mutual assistance groups. I've talked about them before, but I really think that we all need to start creating right now connections with our neighbors, with the people in our community, and start talking about, you know, what will we do as a community if this shows up here, of pulling together and banding together. Because I know many of you say, well, I've got plenty of guns and ammo. Yeah, I get that. And maybe your wife can help you too defend the home, and maybe you got a couple of kids, but if a couple of hundred of these people show up, can you handle that amount of volume? Because they're becoming more and more violent, and there's lots of video and lots of cases where they are also armed. So we're going to talk about that probably in the next video. That's what we need to start doing. We need to start connecting with the neighbors around you, so that you know, forming our own groups, because this insurrection, these insurgents, basically these domestic terrorists, I'm afraid, folks. I'm afraid that we've lost a lot of battles already. We've let them win. They've pushed back police. They've pushed back elected officials. And even the elected officials that we like to think are on our side seem to be doing very little to stop them. I think the day is coming very quick that the only way to stop them is up to us. And I don't think it's through voting. I don't think it's through a legal system that's going to stop them. I think that only you and I coming together as American patriots is the only way to stop these Marxist terrorists that are hell-bent on destroying us. All right, folks, I'm going to get off here. I got to dig some more holes and plant some more posts. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.